last words, just in case?
Don't miss. You got three things in life when you're born. What your mama tells you, what the streets teach you, and what the future holds, which no one knows. That's the one you got control over.
Frankie! Franklin Saint, king of all the white boys.
I'm here to buy. I don't sell coke to kids.
What do you sell?
I sell kilos to people with money.
50 kilos worth of cocaine hidden in a hot tub.
I'm a soldier, not a drug dealer.
So what are we talking about?
How badly does the director want this war funded? This could actually work.
Those 25 kilos could net us just under $2 million.
What you doing with that much coke? You rob somebody? I try to do things the right way. You know what I learned? It ain't made for people like us. And that brick, that ain't worth the trouble that it come with. You know what? I'm rewriting the rules.
You do not have my money.
Where is it?
Where's my money?
This isn't for everybody.
Carter, keep it going, keep it going. That's one heck of a trailer, guys. Congratulations on the show, congratulations. I'm gonna start with you, John, and then Dave, and we can talk a little bit about how the show got started, where the concept came from, if you don't mind, John.
Well, when I'm asked that question, I always say concept came really from life. And growing up in Los Angeles and seeing the tidal change in Los Angeles when crack hit the streets of LA, and just really being fascinated with how that happened. Like, how does a whole city evolve and change for the worse and for the better, ironically, with certain things that happen. So, I made a movie 26 years ago, you know what I mean, called Boys in the Hood.
Some people here might have heard about that. Yeah, exactly.
And so, like this show happens before those events. You know, this happens in a time in which people still played in the streets, and where you know, it was always kind of dicey in the hood, but it was like, you know, it was like a working class environment, you know, and you weren't afraid to go out and play with other people on different blocks and a few miles away. But after this hit, it just became a war zone.
And Dave, what was it like concepting the show and getting those ideas out of John and putting it on page?
Yeah, I mean, I came into it a little bit later after John and a guy named Eric Amadio had kind of come up with the initial conception for what it would look like. And I had been in the FX family for a bunch of years on Justified.
Another great show.
Thank you very much. And so they kind of slipped the script to me, the script that they had written when that ended, and I just wanted to be a part of telling that story. As John was kind of pointing out, being surprised by, I had grown up in LA in the 80s, but South Central, you just thought of it as a place you didn't go. Yeah. And the thought of, oh yeah, this was just a working class neighborhood before this landed, and getting to kind of tell that story.
I mean, after Boys in the Hood, I'm sure a script with John Singleton's name slipping across the desk is not a bad way to start a day. I mean, was it like reading it? I mean, I'm sure you dive deep.
Yeah, I mean, right away, ripped through it and saw the potential for it, and knew that John was going to bring that authenticity, right, that real granular level of detail to it, and to kind of get to help him keep expanding on telling the story that he's been telling throughout his career was a wonderful thing to be a part of.
And John, maybe you can talk a little bit about finding these two other gentlemen here to your right.
Well, I mean, first, this guy comes out of New York theater. He's like a
New York theater guy, yeah.
Yeah, ace. You know, tell a story about how Tommy Schlamio, another one of our executive producers, his wife Christine Lowdy, she saw you in a play.
Yeah. I was doing a play at the Barrow Street Theater most of last year, and it was kind of an exhausting thing, the play, and they my agents called and were like, we want you to make this, to audition, make a tape. What you do now is you make these tapes and you send them out, and we need it tomorrow morning. And it was like, was like 30 pages, and I was like, I'm tired, like, you know, and they don't want me for this thing.
So you knew it was John, you knew it was a show, and
I tried to turn it down. I was like, no, like I'm not gonna. They're not gonna hire me to play a CIA officer, and they were like, just do it, and then and so I sent the tape, and then a couple days later, I went to California to test for it, and Tommy walked up, and another executive producer, Tommy Schlamme, and he was like, he introduced himself. He's like, you know why you're here, right? And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, I made you that tape. And he was like, oh, yeah, whatever. Like, my wife saw The Effect at the Barrow Street, and she's been bugging me about it. She's like, you got to call that guy, because I've been like, we can't find the guy. And so if you get it, you owe Christine 10%.
Oh, that's great. I mean, so the tape didn't even get watched, maybe.
No, I hope it didn't. It probably didn't. If it had been watched, I wouldn't have got the job.
It got watched, and we, within 5 minutes of watching, we're like, get him on a plane, because we were about a week from shooting, and we had seen 100 guys.
Last
and
minute.
We couldn't find him. And so the fact that Christine was with Tommy, I think they were literally laying in bed where Tommy was like, we can't find the guy. And Christine was like, oh, I know the guy. I saw him in a play 3 months ago in New York. And Tommy was like, oh, thanks for mentioning that.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Oh, you're so perfect. You're so good as Teddy, man. I mean, what kind of research did you do into that role? I mean, were you on Wikipedia studying CIA? You know, what was that sort of...
Wikipedia.
Yeah, Wikipedia, where all the best research happens.
Exactly. No.
It's all true on Wikipedia. It's completely, it's a ton of research. I mean, there are mountains and mountains of literature out there to dive into. This whole world was something I didn't really know. I was sort of woefully ignorant to a lot of this history. So it was a pretty steep learning curve, getting caught up on you know, how this worked, and then, you know, and then also how the CIA operates. And we have one of the writers on the show grew up with two parents who were CIA officers, and she didn't find out till she was like 15. Oh wow! And so she could really
that doesn't hurt.
Yeah. So she took me to lunch early on, and talked, and was able to sort of go through not only like the jargon, but also like what it's like to grow up with CIA
keeping secrets and everything like that.
We had also used the same consultant the Americans used, who was a former CIA officer. You know, there's a lot of fringe writing about what went down and what their role was, and so we tried to kind of eliminate the stuff that seemed a little too kind of on the conspiracy theory side of it. And keep it somewhat grounded.
That's awesome. And then Damson, finding Damson, he's so incredible in the show, Franklin.
How did we find you, Damson? Where did we find you?
I heard he was just like lurking
supposed to be
around
a British
outside the
accent,
studio.
but-
They went all the way to Southeast London to find a kid from South Central LA.
We're finally hearing his accent. There we go.
Yeah. So I was in London. I sent a tape, and then I flew over a couple times. I think in total I auditioned probably about 5 times. And one of the auditions, I had to spend a day with John Singleton in South Central LA, just being American. And being
like one of those dream scenarios right there.
Yeah, it was insane. It wasn't a dream, actually.
We were in a park full of people that were like homeless, and some of them just got released from prison and just hanging out.
So a lot of special people, and and then I'm being American. I'm meeting all these people, and no one knows I'm British, and it's going swimmingly until his mum shows up, and then I'm saying really British things, but in an American accent. So I'm like, "Oh, how lovely your hair looks today," and she's like, she looks at John, she goes, "He ain't from here, huh?" From then, I was like, "Yep, I'm going back to London. I'm not getting this role."
But he got the part.
Yeah, so it was great. Yeah.
I mean, did you go back and sort of read about that time? I'm sure you watched Boys in the Hood again a couple times.
Well,
you know?
I'm a 90s baby, and I was actually born the year Boys in the Hood came out. There we go. So
Kismet right there.
I think that makes me feel like he's born the year my first movie came out.
Yeah. But I had no idea anything about the crack cocaine epidemic, particularly in my neighborhood. I was born in Peckham in London, and crack came to my neighborhood in 2002. It was big in 2002. So I didn't know anything about the origins and the American side to it. And Franklin doesn't know what's going to happen in 2017. So a lot of the research was kind of detrimental, but it worked out in the end, yeah.
I mean, you know, John, obviously you're very involved in the story. You have so much of your past that you're sort of pulling from in the scripts. I mean, how do you decide which episode you want to direct? I mean, obviously you have some great directors working with you.
I mean, we got the best directors, man, on this show. I mean, like we got some vets, you know, with like Dan Attias, who's done The Sopranos, you know, who's done umpteen shows, and he just did last night's episode. And we have all these new directors like Slick, who does well, and the guys who did the pilot, Adil and Bilal, they're from Morocco, and they just have a visual patina that's totally different from anything you've ever seen before. So I think the cool thing about this show is we have a diversity of directors, but we also have these directors who just basically have a consistent vision on how the show should be, but they bring something different. Everyone brings something different to the show. Yeah. So I ended up doing the last episode of the season.
And how did that feel for you to be able to round it out, to sort of tie it all up?
Felt great. It's beautiful. It's like, just seeing a baby get up and walk.
What can we expect from that episode? I mean, the pilot.
So that you gotta watch the whole show. People are just not getting the show. The show's doing very, very well. We're really happy, and it's really, really phenomenal to see something that you've thought about just serendipitously over the years come to fruition, and then you have all these other people and chiming. We're reading the Twitters and we're reading the Instagram messages, and the show is now propagating within pop culture. So it's having a life on its own.
Memes are just
the memes are like hilarious.
Welcome to the internet. Exactly. Are you on Twitter? Are you checking it out?
Yeah. I follow the Twitter and I retweet memes as the episode's out. Yes, hilarious.
You guys want to get seen? There you go. I really love the pilot, and I love how you guys do throughout the show balancing the stories. I mean, we have two of the great cast members here, but it's a full cast. I mean, everyone's so talented. I mean, how do you stay in the writer's room and decide, like, oh, we need a so-and-so scene here? How does that get figured out?
Yeah, I mean, we really, for those of you who've seen the episode so far, we really tried to make sure that each of the three storylines had some sort of arc within the episode. And it gave us, weirdly, a freedom, because it meant that for instance, last night's episode where Franklin's story was pretty heated and a pretty high pitch. Teddy's story was a little more laid back, was a little more on an emotional, character-y side. And so each episode we could kind of have something that was ripping and something that was a little slower. And at the end, you can have one that ends with a big cliffhanger and one that ends on a softer note as well.
Yeah. I mean, John, how do you do that balancing act between all the cast?
I mean, it's just sitting there in the writer's room, just playing the dozens and having fun with the stories and the characters, and just. Eating lunch and just we're like, what about this? What about this? And getting up and acting out scenes and stuff, and just it's really cool when you have a collective of really creative people who are just coming up with ideas, and you're just really thinking in terms of one scenario, one theme, in terms of a show and these different characters and their permutations of their lives, and then they take it to the next level. These guys are the ones who make it really live.
And from like our perspective too, like because the show is sort of has 3 chapters to it. I'm going to tell them a small spoiler, so you guys earmuff.
Give it up too badly.
But when the stories when we meet up in here and there, when the stories sort of bounce off each other, it's like the most exciting day on set when you like see Sergio.
Oh, you're still in this show?
We're gonna
we're in a scene together. Oh my God.
Yeah. Well, what's going on with you this week?
Right.
Okay. And then you get the scene together, and it's like everybody gets all sort of like Twitter-pated, like, oh my God, yeah, Sergio and Emily are coming today. Like it's gonna be fun,
Well, and we do table reads on the show, which we never did on Justified, but we felt like it was an important thing to do to remind the cast that there are 10 other cast members, because some of these storylines will go through most of the season and they won't have scenes together. So it's nice every couple of weeks to get everyone together around the table and remind them that they're part of this big ensemble. But it is an embarrassment of riches. Yeah. It's really.
Where do you guys shoot the show?
What's your name again?
All in LA.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
Shows start all over Los Angeles.
Few productions make it the LA move. So I mean, what's it like?
It's an LA show.
Yeah.
It's great to be home in LA. It's great to see different parts of Los Angeles, to discover parts of Los Angeles even I haven't seen before. We go everyone from the Valley to East LA to South Central on the show.
I mean, do you have any people coming out from your past who are trying to share stories? Are there any things in particular that were...
Too many people are coming out now. Like, you need to talk about this, talk about that. It's great, though.
Yeah, was there any particular moment that you remember that actually made its way into the show or something?
I wouldn't tell. You have to. I don't know who's seen the show and who not. We're the audience. We're talking to 20 million people right now. So, but there's a lot of stuff that that happened, and also it was funny. Ironically, my cousin Smokey, who's like is like my big brother / cousin. He informed a lot of my opinions on those times and everything because he was really in this world and this life that Franklin goes through. Yeah. So the greatest compliment I think I can have from this show is that people that have survived, survived this world, have come and said, "You guys got it right." Yeah. The wording, the what's happening, your naivete as a young drug dealer, some guys, some guys ended up not lasting very long. You see this guy finding his way into this world. You know what I mean? And the audience is watching it and having kind of a double entendre kind of thought, like we want him to succeed, but we don't want him to go down this road. Yeah. But we're cheering for him, but then we're not cheering for him because we know what possibly is going to be the cost of it to him and the soul of his character.
I mean, one of the things I love is, the show does not shy away from the issues. You guys are playing out some very intense scenes. What's it like to be in the middle of a scene like that? Have a gun pulled on you or something like that.
A lot of those.
Yeah, exactly.
We have a lot of really weird actors in Snowfall who are never themselves.
Alan.
We have Alon Nabutbo, who's always
so
Harvey.
good.
Myself,
so
I'm always Franklin. I come to work in an American accent. Mm-hmm. He's always Teddy. He's always Teddy. Too much. So it's really easy because as soon as they yell action, we were already in character. So it's really easy to be truthful.
Yeah. And just, it's so, it's intense. What's it like for you, Teddy? This is like your first TV production. What's it like to be involved in scenes like this?
Okay. So I think it's funny the way that your life dovetails with the parts that you play and stuff. The episode that aired last night was about his Teddy's wife comes to Los Angeles from the East Coast and he's this guy who's found himself in California doing this big sort of scary new job, and he really wants her to be impressed by it. So the week that we shot that was the election week, and my wife came to California to visit, and so I remember, I'll never forget. I was like, we were on the lot, and she was in my trailer, and I was like, man, I'm gonna go do this scene about this guy doing all this stuff, and here I am, all the way across the country and trying to impress my wife by don't you think I'm doing a good job with this this big scary new task that I'm doing? And then you just start you sort of go out of body for a minute. I find that those things happen a lot if you're sort of looking for them. In terms of the intensity, I think it's these great actors that come on, and Alon is a great example because he's, I love him. He's crazy, and we've
heard that 5 times.
He'll just say whatever comes out of just whatever, and in episode 2, totally unscripted. We're supposed to be taking our clothes off to be checked for wires, and they had been just go down to your underwear for this part, and then we'll kind of move into the next bit of the scene. And so he's got this golden gun at me, and he's like, "Take your underwear off, show me your ass." And we're rolling, and it was all right,
I guess I gotta show him my ass.
And it's now in the. And then a PA comes up with a nudity waiver, you gotta sign this.
You should sign this probably. Yeah. There's a lot of fake cocaine around. What is that made out of?
What do you mean?
Yeah.
We have a nice budget on this show.
Got to keep everybody we're just turning it all the way back.
Long set days.
The Hollywood of the 70s. We figured we shouldn't have to miss out.
Really though, what's that made out of?
It's like a sugar-based. I don't know. You guys haven't had to.
Yeah, it's funny. All the main characters don't use, which is fantastic. It's in all quotes. Nope.
That's one of my favorite things about it, because it's we could be selling paper or paper clips. It's actually just about these people's families, really. And the cocaine is this thing that occurs, and the crack is the thing that follows. But it's really it's these 3 families, and they're trying to just kind of
But he was around a lot more than me. Yeah. There's a scene.
I was so dumb
In the
too. When we
trailer.
first got there, we were like on set, and I have to talk about kilos and kilo. I'm always talking about kilos, and we're like about to roll, and I was finally like, "Hey guys, I have to ask like a really embarrassing question. Like, what's a kilo?"
What is a kilo? I
They're
remember
like,
that day. I was
"Like,
like,
this is a
what is a
kilo.
kilo?
And I was like, "Oh, so we're talking about like a lot of cocaine, right?" Like, I'm glad
sell
we
it.
covered this now before we rolled camera.
Oh man, I mean, John, for somebody who started off in TV, being able to be involved with film. I mean, that's what I mean, and then being able to go to TV and be able to tell these longer stories and have characters develop. I mean, what's that difference for you? What does that mean for you?
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's like a load off my back.
Yeah.
Because I mean, and Dave taught me a lot about the slow burn. Like, hey, you want to hit it hard. When film, you're used to just hitting it hard. You have a 3-act structure. You got to like in the first 10 minutes, really capture the audience and get them. Here, we can let the characters live and breathe and propagate. Yeah. You know what I mean? And over a period of time, and we keep it interesting for the audience, but you don't have to blow your wad like right out.
Yeah, I mean, I think you want to find that balance, right, of something that's moving along, but knowing that you're looking to tell a 50-hour movie and having a certain pace to it. But look, there is a cinematic sensibility that John brings, and wanting to really find those moments within every episode. And TV is wonderful these days. I mean, you watch these shows, and each week feels like a movie, and they're putting the money into it.
And the music.
I have to ask
Music in
about the
our
music. It's
show.
so good. It gets the vibe
It's
for
like
sure.
it puts you right in the zone.
Reason why.
You know what I mean? Puts you right there in the moment. And anybody that lived in those times, or if you haven't, you love the music and you just really in there.
Yeah, and it's so perfect. Well, we have some questions in the audience, and we're going to start right there.
Hello, gentlemen. Thank you for being here. So for you, John, what have you learned over the years from yourself, from your career, from making Boys in the Hood to this TV series?
What have you learned over your career?
Yeah.
Try to be patient. I came in this business. I mean, I directed my first movie when I was 22, but I got my first job in the business when I was 19 on Pee Wee's Playhouse. So.
But that's on Wikipedia, I'm sure.
Lawrence Fishburne and
I have no idea what you're talking about.
and Paul Rubens, who I love. I love Paul Rubens. I'd love to try to find something for Paul Rubens on the show. So, I mean, I feel like I grew
Carter's
up.
face right now.
They used him to do that. He was in Blow, wasn't he?
Huh?
They put him
he was in
Blow
Blow for a second, yeah. But I just, but I feel like I kind of grew up in the business. You know what I mean? Like on the production end side of it. So I think this is kind of a culmination of really me as a storyteller, a visual storyteller, being able to do something in television. Yeah. So it's exciting.
Absolutely. Next question.
I'm still tripping on last night's episode. The series is intense and riveting. As a child of the 80s and having lived in Carson, California for 2 years, I really appreciate the authenticity and the detail that you have for the period. Can you talk about how much preparation and kind of what your process is to really capture that feeling?
I mean, first of all, we got to get it on paper, but then we have a great team, we have a great production designer and costume designers and stuff, and then, I mean, like, we just sit and talk it out and what needs to be done from episode to episode, and that's it.
Yeah. And shooting on location, I'm sure, is huge.
Yeah, I mean, there are places in which Los Angeles has changed and evolved, and they've developed things over that look totally different from what they were in the 80s, but there are a lot of places, there are places that just look like they did in the 60s and 70s. It has that kind of Los Angeles is what's called the Sun Belt, and a lot of things haven't changed. They haven't been
Palm
built
trees
up.
in episode
The
1.
palm trees and everything. It's it's just iconic. You're in Southern California.
Yeah, from that first shot, for sure. And there's one last question right there.
Hey guys, I've seen the first episode so far, but it's amazing. I was wondering how intense does it get, like, on set sometimes, and is it difficult to kind of like shoot certain scenes or like get out of character sometimes, because sometimes
it's an actor question.
Yeah, there we go. You want to take this one, buddy?
I mean, you are playing a CIA officer.
I think it's all. I think anytime you're trying to, like, I think telling a story collaboratively is really challenging, and there are the challenges come from all sides, and you have a giant team. You could have 150 people in a room ready to just shoot a conversation between two people, and you have to figure out how tell that story as clearly and as interestingly as possible, and everyone's, you know, everyone may not always have the same opinion, and then you have these really amazing conversations where you sit and you. I remember one of the last days, towards the end of production, we had another actor was new into the show, and we were doing a scene in a diner, and Tommy and I would get heated with each other. We'd be like, no, I don't. This is what the scene's about. It's about this. It's about that. But we'd been doing that for like 5 months at that point. I wasn't thinking anything about it, and this actress Justine was like, and we wrapped it up. We came to an agreement. We're like, oh yeah, Tommy, you are right. Like, you know, your 12 Emmys.
They thought it was an actual fight.
Probably was. I meant I should have listened to you from the beginning. But yeah, you're right. And we walked away, and she was like, it's kind of crazy how you guys talk to each other, right? It's like, I don't know. It's just like, you know, cut through the crap and just say what you mean, and I think it helps. But yeah, like, it's long hours, and everyone's trying really hard to do a difficult thing. Yeah.
Well, it definitely pays off. Guys, absolutely check out Snowfall on FX by whatever means necessary. Thank you so much for being here, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.